Students, we are going to get started in just a moment. Thank you so much for being here. We're just going to let everybody come on in and then we will begin. All right, I think let's go ahead and start if we can get that recording going. Thanks, Debbie.
You're recording, you can begin.
Great, thank you. All right, hello, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us for the first ever International University Month at Los Altos High School. We started this event last year as International University Day/Night. And this year I was hoping to expand the workshops we were able to offer. Although I was envisioning holding this event in person, working virtually has had the silver lining of allowing us to connect with so many more universities. I was absolutely blown away by the wonderful and enthusiastic response that we've gotten from university admission representatives from all over the world who were thrilled to participate and share their institutions with us. I'm happy to tell you that over the next month, you'll have the chance to learn about 30+ universities on 4 continents from 12 countries. This is an incredible opportunity for our students to think outside the box for their college admissions. Although we have a few thousand opportunities here in the US, there is a whole world beyond just our country and a lot of awesome reasons to consider it. I invite students to imagine a college experience that is exciting, unique, adventurous, and culturally immersive, different from anything in the US. And in addition to the information you're going to hear today, consider that admissions practices and requirements in other countries are generally more transparent than here, which offers you a way to opt out of the madness of the American admissions process. Students can look at the entire session schedule throughout October on Naviance or on the College Career Center website. So please register yourself so that we know you're coming. And for students applying to UK schools who have been asking about help with UCAS applications, tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m. is our UCAS workshop. So make sure to sign up, as it's a great opportunity to learn all about the details. All the sessions this month are delivered by international reps, so you can hear it from the source. And before I introduce you to our panelists for this afternoon, just a little webinar housekeeping. The presentation is being recorded and will be available to view later, but please hang out with us so you can ask questions. We'll have Q&A at the end, and please use the Q&A function in Zoom rather than the hand raising. All right, without further ado, I'm going to get these slides started and introduce you to our presenters. All right. All right, so who do we have with us today? We've got from all over the world, Dr. Maggie Parke from Universities Wales, Peter Brimstone from Queen's University in Belfast, Northern Ireland, Lea-Anne Allen at Macquarie University in Sydney, Australia, Ryan Myzak at American University of Rome in Italy, Niamh Kavanagh at University of Limerick in Ireland, and Lydia Harper from University of Toronto in Canada. So welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm so excited to have you. And I'm going to now turn it over to Dr. Parke.
Hello, I'm Maggie. I'm just going to cover 2 slides. We're each going to break up the next few slides so you don't hear the same voice forever, and we'll try to go through them real fast, but make sure you have the information that you need. So I'm doing these first 2 slides because I did this myself. I'm from the United States. I moved to Wales to do my master's and my PhD, and I still live here 15 years on. But it's an absolutely amazing option for you to consider as an undergraduate student. So some of the reasons of why you might want to consider going overseas to study for college, they're all listed here. For me, it was 100% about location. I wanted to live somewhere different, somewhere really cool. I was obsessed with King Arthur and Harry Potter and all these fantasy things, and I wanted to live in that world. But I stayed because of academics and cost. The academics were stellar, equal to US degrees, and it was way cheaper than what I was considering in the United States. Plus, there were a lot of scholarships, and the school I ended up was a FAFSA school, so you could use US federal loans. We're going to go into these bits as we continue on. But there were so many other benefits from living overseas that I could hike a mountain on a Monday before class. I could pop to Italy for the weekend because the flight was 25 pounds, which is about $40. It ends up being less than that. It ends up being a really amazing space to grow as a college student in academics, but also in life experience. You also get a lot of opportunities for work experience, and international experience is a quality that's really valued by employers these days. So not only are you having this international experience, which is really shiny, you're also going to have internships, work experience, industry experience going into the field after you graduate. Some institutions easier to get into as international students. I don't know if I want to go straight to the word easier, but much clearer. It is really transparent. If you send us your transcript, we can basically tell you how you would fit in to our institution. If you want to click over to the next one, Daphne. Programs available. There's a couple different ways you can study abroad. So all of us are representatives from either organizations, like I'm from Study in Wales, so there's 8 universities in Wales, which is part of the UK. But we've got these individual reps from universities. So most of us are working with students that are looking for full degrees. So you would come to your entire undergraduate degree, your entire bachelor's at our institution. But you have other options. So first of all, if you're coming for the full degree, it's either going to be 3 years or 4 years. A lot of countries will offer 3-year degrees because we don't require gen eds. So you wouldn't have to take a French class if you are a chemistry student. You wouldn't have to take chemistry if you're a French student. You're just studying your subject. So it is a little bit more focused, a little bit more compact. The other option is that you can stay in the US and then you can study abroad for either a semester or a full year. So that's actually what I did. I went to school in Virginia, but I spent a semester in Wales. I almost transferred to finish my undergraduate in Wales because I loved it so much, but I finished it in the US and then I came back for graduate school. So that's that last bullet point. You can come back for grad school. Around the world, grad programs are shorter. They tend to be 1 year for a master's and 3 years for a PhD. So it's just good to kind of keep that in the back of your mind as an option. And a lot of our universities will offer combined programs. So you could apply to a 4-year program that's a bachelor's and a master's together. Also, some American universities have campuses overseas. So we're going to hear from the American University in Rome, and they're going to talk about how you can have that American experience, but in a foreign country. Whew, I feel like I just flew through that, but there's kind of the blitz of what you need to know about those two.
Thanks, Maggie. So who should go overseas and where is it a good fit? I think many of us today have studied overseas and will tell you it is the most amazing thing you could do is to do a degree, whether it's a 3-year or 4-year degree outside of the United States or your 1 or 2 year masters or even a semester or summer abroad. I have personally studied in 5 countries and I tell students to beat me and make it 5, 6 or 7 countries because truly it's an incredible experience. You need to be independent, but of course you also have to be independent if you're going to go to a college in New York or Nebraska, because they're going to have very different cultural experiences available to you as well. So even leaving your home city or your hometown is going to make you change, but going overseas to the other side of the world is obviously going to be so much more impactful, and you need to be willing to take risks to do that as well. Also important that you stand up for yourself and sort of take that independent attitude with you, because schools outside of the US, most of them are public, but some, of course, you'll hear tonight are also private, but you need to be able to stand up and ask for help. Unlike the US schools, generally you'll have big classes and you'll need to take that initiative to go and speak to academics if you need some additional support available. So certainly that's one of the biggest things, is just to be independent, but of course this experience is going to help you to be even more independent as well. So don't be afraid if you're not feeling quite independent at the moment, it'll still be an incredible opportunity for you as well. And I think it's important to remember that if you are in Europe or Australia, you're then able to do so much more traveling around that. For Australia, New Zealand and Vietnam and Thailand is in our doorstep. Or as Maggie was saying, you can go to Wales and then spend your weekends in Paris. So some very cool opportunities available for you there. And if Daphne, we go to the next page, because I think it's important to think about what a campus is like overseas. Generally speaking, all students, irrespective of where they're from, want a very similar experience. I know Australian students go to university because that's an awesome time to sort of explore your interests before you sort of enter the real world and start your careers. And it's the same. I think the biggest differences is we don't have the NCAA outside of the United States. And we also don't have sororities or fraternities. We just have great students enjoying life on campus as well. Of course, there are some things you should think about whether this is the right choice to you. Certainly, considering like your physical or mental health, but remember that students all over the world have the same challenges and are able to find that support on campus as well. But certainly if the thought of a 3 or 4 year degree is a bit horrifying, go and do a freshman year abroad, spend a semester or a year overseas at a university or at a gap year program to get that experience, and then decide if you do want to make that sort of jump and do the full program, or just do a shorter program and come back to the US and do your masters. There's so many different opportunities available for you.
My apologies, everyone. I'm a little bit late jumping in. So how does it work and how do you get here? Which is always the big question to ask. So as Maggie had mentioned at the start, it is a lot clearer when you're applying to universities internationally as to the application process. So all of us here will have a different approach in terms of, you know, whether you apply through UCAS or whether you apply in the Common App or whether you apply directly to us. We'll have a difference between our GPA requirements and our SAT requirements. I know in Ireland we do look for the standardised testing, so it would be your GPA with your standardised testing. In Australia or Wales, it might be a little bit different. So you need to do a little bit of research on the entry requirements and what's expected. And we are very aware that this is a bit of a different year when it comes to testing and examinations and everything like that. So you need to speak to the individual universities and the different reps for those to find out the process and what is required, or where there may be a little bit of flexibility. But a lot of the emphasis when you are applying abroad is on your academic. So essays and references are sometimes required, or you might have an interview or portfolio, but a lot of it is on the academic piece because that's what a lot of domestic students are done on. What I really recommend for you all to do is do a lot of research. Make sure to really look into it and find the place that excites you the most. So if it's going down under to Australia and learning about the different cultures down there, then that's for you. If it's coming to Ireland to tour around the green fields and learn about the Celtic way of life, or if it's heading over to Wales and enjoying that Harry Potter experience around the UK, then whatever excites you the most. And if it's for a full-time undergrad, fantastic. If it's for a semester, fantastic. If it's for your graduate, wonderful. But do really consider coming abroad and research. That's all I can really hit on there. So I'm not sure. Sorry guys, a little bit of technical difficulty. So how much does it cost? Many countries around the world will have different fee options, and for some of them it'll vary. So we are very much more affordable than a lot of the US universities. Average costings in Ireland and the UK would roughly be anywhere from 30 to 50,000 US dollars, depending on which universities and stuff like that you're applying to. I'm not sure about Australia or New Zealand. And a lot of the schools will accept financial aid loans and the GI bills, and also vet and everything like that. So there is multiple different opportunities as well to work in these different countries and to have stay back visas. I know in Ireland we do internships and all at the University of Limerick and in other universities, and I know internships is a big thing because a lot of our degrees are industry focused across all the different institutions here today. And working part-time and getting stay back visas or permanent residencies is also very much an opportunity. And I would recommend, if you are going to go and study abroad for 4 years, do get a part-time job and really build that CV and work on that career network, because it is going to be vital when you graduate.
Thanks, Niamh.
Great.
This is Ryan at the American University of Rome. And what I absolutely love is that when you consider academics in other countries, it's structured completely different. It's similar, but completely different than what we have in the United States, especially when you think of it in terms of whether you have a major or a minor. In many countries, it's more or less just a very specific program. As my colleague in Wales explained, if you come in to study chemistry, you are just studying chemistry and you have a more or less a prescribed curriculum. In other countries, it's more closer related to the US, where you might have some flexibility in the courses that you pick. So you will have a primary specialization, but you might be able to take other programs of interest. And so usually I would say, depending on the country that you're really looking to go to, there really is emphasis on knowing exactly what you want to study before you even start the application process. And many of the national education systems in the other countries are set up so that by the time that students go to university in other countries, they may have already been knowing what field that they've been that they were going to study for several years. So that is something to keep in mind. In addition, when you consider going into specific majors, in some cases, it's easy to change majors as long as the subjects are closely related. So if you're going between maybe sociology and anthropology, the courses have enough similarities where it could be very, very simple. Whereas if you were to say, try to go from sociology to economics, it may be nigh impossible and you may actually have to reapply to university depending on the university system that you are in. As far as the concept of undecided exploratory, depending on the university system, that is more on a case-by-case basis, because so much of the curriculum is very structured in other countries. It can be quite rare, but some individual universities or university systems may give you the flexibility to allow you to explore and really pick and choose your interests from different courses.
Great, thanks, Ryan. And in terms of where do students live when they're studying abroad or studying internationally? So every university, of course, has kind of their own setting, how that works. But a lot of universities do have what we would call the American style on-campus housing. So that could be anything from dormitory style, where there's a meal plan. It might be apartment style, where students cook and clean for themselves. It really does depend on the different university. And some students actually, a lot of universities do have residences where students have their own bedroom and bathroom. Certainly, I know a lot of universities right now don't have any sharing, just with everything that's going on. But you may find yourself at a school that offers you the opportunity to have a roommate or maybe housemate. So it's a really great way to meet some students in your first year and connect with other students in your residence, because there's usually lots of activities within residences, great ways to connect with other students, and potentially even meet some students maybe that you want to live together with in the future years of your undergraduate study. And in terms of dining, as I said, some of the universities do have dining halls, which is really great, different meal plans as well. Depending on where the university is located, there may be some really fantastic restaurants and cafes that you can frequent as a student. If a school doesn't have on-campus housing, like a residence, they usually do have some format of an off-campus housing center so that they can help you find housing. And they might be able to help you find an apartment or maybe connect with a house that is offering out subletting, and as well as opportunities to connect with future roommates too. So one thing I do recommend is check out on each university's residence policy. Maybe you need to apply to residence before you hear from your admission decision. Maybe there are several residences that you can apply for. So it's really important to check into the different universities' residence application processes. As well, it gives you the chance to maybe check out what the different living on campus or off campus situations are, so that you're well prepared and that you're gonna have a great transition when you start studying abroad and internationally.
Thanks, Lydia. This is Peter from Queen's University Belfast in Northern Ireland. So as some of my colleagues have mentioned, going overseas to study, going to another country to study definitely does suit independently minded students, but just because of that, it doesn't mean that you're going to be doing this alone. There have been international students traveling around the world for their university experience for a really, really long time. The first international student in the UK came in the 12th century. That was like 900 years ago. So we've been doing this for a while. What has come from that, obviously, is a little bit better support services than there probably were back then. But universities are used to welcoming international students and have got really good at looking after those international students. We know it's a huge jump. A lot of my colleagues on the call today will have done something similar to this at some point in our own lives. We will have decided to go overseas and to go to a different country and try and live and try and study and work. And it does take a little bit of adjustment, even if we all speak rough variations of the same language. Universities will provide, through the likes of international offices, through their student guidance centres, student resource centres, support services to help you fit in, to help you adjust to life in a new country and to get used to all the little things that are different from the US, whether that's housing, money, opening a bank account, finding a job, getting a visa, traveling to other countries in your holidays in between semesters. So we are there, and we are there to help with all of that. So don't feel like you've got to work this all out for yourself. What you will find, there are some cultural differences between the US and other countries. You think of the likes of Australia, New Zealand, or in Europe, or even up in Canada, where at the age of 18, very much you're seen as starting your adult life, and university is part of that transition. So it is learning to do things like make your own meals in a lot of places, but also going out and trying to find work and navigating your way around a new city. But again, that support is there. Similar mental health support is there also. It can be a challenge. Things like homesickness are real, and we've all experienced it, but the university is there. Your fellow students are there, your fellow international students are there to help you enjoy it, get the most out of it, both academically and personally. Obviously, the world is a little bit different right now. We would all love to be there in person. Telling you this in person, I certainly would rather be in California at the minute than sitting in my own living room at night time, but here we are. And obviously universities are a little bit different within that. That being said, outside of the United States, there is some level of normality returning to life in some parts of the world. My own university in the UK, for example, we are able to teach safely in person at the moment. So we have international students on campus getting that authentic university experience. None of us know what will happen in a year's time, but absolutely speak to universities and find out what they did at the time. And what you will find with colleges in other parts of the world, as you know, my colleague mentioned, a lot of us have private rooms in our housing and private ensuite bathrooms. So we've been able to let students stay in their student housing throughout the pandemic. We also are very fortunate to have universal healthcare in the UK, and other countries are the same, so that if the worst should happen, if you needed to get a test, if you got unwell at any stage while you're at university due to COVID or anything else, you can get healthcare there for free. So it is worth taking a look outside, because we know the traditional college experience is changing. But all being well, next year this will just be a happy memory and we can move on. I think that is us done with our summary. For now, we're going to move into individual country presentations. So I'm going to pass back to my neighbours south of the border, to Niamh in Ireland, who will tell you a little bit about study down there.
Hi everyone, you're back down south now again. Thanks a million, Peter. So studying in Ireland, for a lot of Americans, it's about coming back and connecting with their ancestral history, or just learning about the different culture that we have here. And a reason why a lot of American students choose to come to Ireland is because of our safe, friendly, and how welcoming we are. So teach you a little bit of Irish. Céad Míle Fáilte means 100,000 welcomes. And for such a small island, we are globally connected, and we have such a multicultural society now. And that's thanks to a lot of our international students that come to study with us and end up staying with us. We are an English-speaking member of the EU, so we all speak English on the island, even though you might hear a little bit of Gaelic every now and again, but it is primarily English is our first language. We have beautiful landscapes and amazing places to go and visit, and our universities are ranked in the top 1 to 2% in the world. All of our degrees are internationally recognized, and we have multiple different campuses depending on which university you want to study at. And then when you go into our undergraduate degrees, so for academic structures and different things like that, primarily our degrees are 4 years in duration, and the way they work is a lot of them will have embedded internships or co-op placements, and they'd also have the opportunity for you to do a study abroad while studying abroad. So we have this magnificent program here in Europe called the Erasmus Exchange Program, where you can go to one of our European partners. So you could head up to Peter in Queens or across to Maggie in Wales and study with them for a semester while studying in Ireland for your full undergraduate degree. And it's a magnificent opportunity. We do have flexibility on courses, but like as we had mentioned earlier on in the presentation, you do have to have very much the area you want to go into, because you won't have general eds available. So we'll move on to the next one. So applying to Ireland is very simple. We're very black and white because that's how it is for Irish students. So if you have the grades and the test scores, you are offered a place at the different universities, and especially with the University of Limerick, if you have your GPA with your SATs or ACTs, I can pretty much tell you straight away whether you'll get an offer or not. And then when you're applying, you do have to apply to specific disciplines. So you have to go into arts, humanities, or into business, or into law, or into like science, engineering, and you're going to be doing those disciplines specifically. And a lot of the universities are on the Common App, including ourselves. Oh, apologies. So just in terms of looking at fees and finances, so you can see there the average cost of studying in Ireland will vary depending on the program you're studying, but for majority of the places it will be about $38,000 US. If you're looking at studying in Limerick, you're going to talk anywhere from $30,000 to $35,000 US, but it does vary. So that's where the research really comes into play. And then for all the universities, we are FAFSA approved, so you can get your loans with us. And once again, I would recommend looking into it. If there is an institute that you're really interested in applying to, get onto their website. They're really, really good, and you'll be able to figure out all the different benefits and scholarships and everything like that are available. So I'm going to hand you down to Lea-Anne down there, down the other end of the world, across.
A bit further south.
Bit further.
Welcome to Australia. So as I was saying, my name's Lea-Anne with Macquarie University, which is in Sydney, Australia. And Australia is actually geographically the same size as the United States, give or take a little bit. But fascinatingly, we only have 25 million people compared to the close to 40 million people here in California alone. And 90% of the Australian population lives within 60 miles of the coast. So we very much are focused around the coast of the country. And there is very little inside the middle of Australia, but well worth exploring as well. It's pretty incredible out there. A couple of years ago, I was there and we were camping, and it sounds like these massive semi-trailers are about to run you over, but they're actually 20 miles away. There's just no sound barrier to stop it. So it's a pretty phenomenal experience. Australia itself is a very multicultural society. 1 in 4 Australians are actually born overseas. So that sort of just shows how welcoming and multicultural Australia is generally. We have 42 universities in Australia, and again, they're just spread out around the coast of the continent. And they're sort of mid-sized universities, about 40,000 students. A large is about 60 to 70,000. Probably the smallest university in Australia has about 25,000 students. So pretty different to the landscape here in the US. Similar to my colleagues in the UK and Europe, our degrees are 3 years in duration, so we don't have the general education requirements, but you can do a double degree. So that's, for example, a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science, which would take you 4 years to complete. We are a little bit more flexible in the Australian system in that if you start doing a business degree, realize you really don't like it at all and you want to do politics, that's okay. You do have the ability to change, and you do have electives as well. So you can sort of pick and choose from different areas to make sure you are doing the degree that you want to take as well. Being in the Southern Hemisphere, our dates are a little different. So Australian students actually finish high school in December, and then we're on summer vacation throughout December, January, February. And then we commence at the end of February. We go until basically the last week of June, and then July is our winter vacation. Starts again at the end of July, and we go right through until November, which is our exam period. So depending on when exams fall, will essentially dictate whether or not you make it home for Thanksgiving. But that's also an awesome opportunity because you can actually come back and do your internships here in the US if you want to. We do have post-study work visas, so you are able to stay and work in Australia for 2 years after graduating, and you do have work rights while studying, and minimum wage in Australia is about $20 an hour, which is super helpful. Thanks.
All right, guys, we're back on the island of Ireland. So I represent Queen's University Belfast, which is in Belfast, which is the capital city of Northern Ireland. So geographically, we are Irish. We're on the island of Ireland. Politically and economically, or however you want to phrase it, we are part of the United Kingdom. So Northern Ireland is part of the UK, but we're also the top half of regular Ireland, I guess, for want of a better phrase. We are officially the happiest and safest part of the United Kingdom, and that's according to the British government. Unofficially, we are the best part. That's just according to me, and I'm sure colleagues would disagree. But it's a great little country, about 1.8 million people. It's very much the Irish lifestyle, and that same sort of warm welcome that has been known up and down our island for centuries. In terms of university structure in Northern Ireland, it's pretty easy to get your head around because there only are two of us. There's Queen's University Belfast and Ulster University, so it's super easy to pick a university. As I said, it's that internationally recognised UK education, but also that internationally recognised laid-back Irish lifestyle. A little bit of the best of both worlds, we like to think. We're on the 3-year undergraduate system, so you choose a major at the point of application, and you dive straight into that major when you arrive. It means there's no gen ed. If you want to just study architecture, you'll just study architecture, or whatever it may be. Programs on the island that we're particularly well known for are things like international relations and politics. We are quite a little political part of the world, but also our modern expertise in the likes of engineering, particularly things like computer science, are exceptional. We're on the type of living that is single rooms. There's no room sharing in this part of the world. It is, you get your own room, and it's quite nice, and it is guaranteed for every international student. Cost of living, as I said, is the lowest in the United Kingdom. So you can get a really high quality of life for not very much, and you're looking at a total cost of attendance anywhere between 25 and 35,000 US dollars per year. And again, it is only a 3-year program. And that's us.
Okay, so heading back to North America, your neighbors to the north, Canada, a country that is smaller in terms of population than the state of California, but covers a vast amount of land. And so that's something that is really appealing to students, is that we have universities all across our fantastic country. And we have a very strong education system in Canada. And actually 30 of our universities are in the Times Higher Education World University rankings. So we really enjoy providing a fantastic education for not only domestic Canadian students, but from students abroad as well. And because we are a smaller country, we actually have, of course, fewer universities, but they all tend to be a bit larger as well. So with 96 universities, you'll find a mix between small, mid-sized, and large universities, some as large as even 90,000 undergraduate students. So, sorry, 70,000 undergraduate students, but 90,000 students total. So it really depends on what type of university you're looking for, but just know that you have lots of options in terms of size and fit, as well as location, because like the United States, we're coast to coast. So we have some kind of warmer cities, some more northern cities. You do get to experience the seasons in most of our cities. So that's really appealing, depending on what you're looking for in your university setting. We also have primarily a public university system. So that's something that students do find typically interesting about coming to university as in Canada. As well, we offer 127 colleges as well. And degrees in Canada are typically 4-year bachelor degree programs, and they can be focused in any area, typically like arts or science, business and professional programs such as engineering, music, and kinesiology. But within that, there's usually a lot of flexibility. So as you've heard in some of the previous countries, if you start in one program area, you may realize, actually, I want to switch to another, or maybe you want to study a little bit of another area as well. There's usually that opportunity to maybe do a double degree, a double major, or flexibility to switch into another area that most interests you. And what's great is we offer lots and lots of different programs across our vast country in Canada. And so the process to apply, it is a little bit different than you may find applying to universities in the United States. Typically, applications are a two-step process, and the first step is usually applying directly to the university or through Common App. So some schools are on Common App, but some aren't. So as with everything, it's always best to check with the specific university you're interested in. And after you submit that initial application is when you would then submit the required documents, which would be your transcripts, any supplemental applications, as well as English language proficiency requirements if they're required. And in terms of admission consideration, as you've heard, we tend to be very transparent across all of our universities of what we're looking for so that you have an idea of which university you have a good fit for. As well, we just want to be really fair and transparent with students who are interested in applying. And academics are generally what's most important. So for most programs and most universities across Canada, that's primarily what they're going to be looking for are your transcripts. In some cases, test scores may be required. Every university is a little bit different. And then right now, of course, with COVID-19, a lot of universities are choosing to go test optional. So it's really good to check out each university to see what they're looking at. In terms of tuition, you'll see there that I don't have kind of a sticker price available. And again, that's because it really does depend on the university and the program. At the lowest, it could be approximately anywhere from $20,000 all the way up to maybe $45,000, $50,000 in US dollars. Generally speaking, it's usually somewhere in the middle. It just depends on the university and the program. But scholarships are available for international students for most programs and universities across Canada. So there's always great opportunities to come and study in Canada, which I realize we're not too far away. So there's definitely a lot of similarities, but we've got some really great differences that we love to celebrate and share with you too. So a good opportunity to consider, even though we're just up to the north, we are happy and welcoming to US students.
Hi all, so Ryan representing Italy. I'm going to talk a little bit, work in sort of a unique context. So I'll talk a little bit about Italy, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about the American overseas colleges, because it's a little bit of a different scenario than some of my other colleagues that have been speaking. But Italy is the second most popular country for all US students that go abroad. Number one is the United Kingdom. However, unlike a lot of my colleagues in the other countries, the Italian national university system is not very internationalized. And so most US students would be hard pressed to get admission to a university like La Sapienza in Rome or the University of Florence, the University of Milan. In fact, most Italian students, your high school will actually dictate which major you end up studying. As a result, for American degree-seeking students looking to study in Italy, they will either come to us at the American University of Rome or our peer American peer university, John Cabot University. Some cool fun factoids about Italy: we have 55 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, which is the most of any country in the world. Well, technically tied with China, but the most of any country in the world. We are an art, architecture, fashion, and food capital. Obviously, most Americans, when they think of Italy, they think of food. Ironically, the most Italian food Americans think of is actually from Sicily in Southern Europe, where most Italian emigrated to the United States. I like to say that my favorite Italian food is actually Northern Italian food, which will seem a lot more Germanic, a lot of lentils, a lot of beef. As far as international students, there's about, as I said before, the Italian national system, there's only about 30,000 international students there total, mostly because most students need to be fluent in Italian to study there. Although you are finding a couple English medium programs popping up. One of the best parts of Italy, however, is its cost of living. It is very cheap, even by US standards, with the exception of the city of Milan. Most students can find their entire living amounts being between $700 and $1,000 a month. This is including your housing, your food, your transportation, everything else. And so if you're planning a study abroad experience, or maybe you're looking at coming for your full degree with either us or John Cabot University, your living expenses is really where you'll find that your currency goes a little bit further than in maybe other parts of Europe. With healthcare, it's average about $300 a year. That's not actually your cost of healthcare. That's actually a health insurance surcharge that goes on your US health insurance to come here. But as everyone has said, you have access to the best healthcare in the world at a price that you can afford. So we're very proud of that. Of course, as I mentioned before, it is very easy to travel amongst Europe in non-COVID times. You can find cheaps as low as $20, $30. You can get on a 3-hour train ride and find yourself in a different country. And for Italy, we're pretty much connected throughout all of Southern Europe, Northern Africa, and Central Europe. And then in addition, like with all of us, student visas are required, but fortunately, Italy actively is seeking students from around the world, and so the visa process is relatively simple. Now, with the American universities overseas, I have this picture up here because it's actually the American University of Rome requirements, but there's about 30 of us worldwide. Within Western Europe, there's about 6 of us in 5 different European countries. But we are completely on the US system. We use English median instruction. We are on the US credit hour. And so our degrees are physically recognized in both the United States, but also for us usually within Europe. And so when students complete our education, they can seamlessly go on to graduate school back into the US if they would like. For other students that have fallen in love with Italy, or they're really seeking maybe an Erasmus experience that my colleague had described further, where they might want to go to a couple different universities in Europe, our degrees also have equivalency there. So you will be eligible to go on to master's or doctoral level study. It's just a little bit different, for example, a country like Italy, where Italian is not widely spoken in the United States. We do require students to take it, and so they find that it's a great way to come in and be immersed in a language that maybe they've been passionate about, but might not have had the education access in their school systems. Regarding costs, our tuition is about $25,000 US per year. That's pretty similar to the other American universities overseas. They will range from about 40 to about 20,000 US per year, so kind of comparable to what you may find in the United States. However, like with the US, there is the lovely complicated financial aid system where you're not sure what you're going to pay until after you go through the financial aid process. So like other universities you have in the United States, like Whittier College in California, we have a variety of merit scholarships, need-based aid. We take the FAFSA, and so it ends up being very similar to maybe of an experience of what you may find applying to school in Europe. I do want to mention, for us, we've never required the SAT or the ACT. We use our admission processes primarily based off of essays and interviews, because we find that those are the qualities that best demonstrate the students that succeed at AUR. But you can sort of see there on the slides, those are our general admission requirements.
All right, and just to round this show up, I'll tell you a bit about Wales. So I think I'm the last nation to talk. At first, I have to say an apology to Ryan. I just noticed Canada was at the top of your last slide, and obviously that was Italy, so that was my bad. I didn't change the Canada to Italy.
That's okay. I love Canada, and all of you should love Canada. It's a wonderful place.
Thanks, gang. So hi, I'm Maggie. I'm from studying Wales. If you want to pop to the next slide, Daphne, that'd be great. Wales is, oh, sorry, the one after this. There's a beautiful view of Cardiff Castle for you, but where's Wales? So I always like to start with this one because, believe it or not, I find a number of people in the US have never heard of Wales. They think it's part of England. My father included. He still spells Wales with an H. It's a challenge. Wales is a bit of a hidden gem. It's one of the Celtic nations in the United Kingdom. We're next to England, very close to Dublin on the ferry. It's a small, lovely little place. 35% of it is covered in national parks. Most of the country is within a half hour of the coast, and the entire coast is walkable. The entire thing is a public footpath. You can walk the entire coast of Wales, which is just lovely. Like I said earlier, I went here myself purely for location. I wanted to live in this country. I live in Snowdonia National Park. I've got mountains in my backyard. I'm a 20-minute walk to the ocean, but I teach in London every Monday. So there's direct trains all over the UK. From North Wales to London, it's about 3 hours on a direct train. From South Wales, it's about 2 hours on a direct train. So what I like about that, and why I like to point that out, is just the connectivity of Wales to the rest of the UK, but also just the whole of Europe is just way closer than I think I ever thought it was when I was younger. Popping down to London, having a lovely day in the city, going to see a show, catching up with friends. But I don't have to pay to live there, which is a big perk. We're a lot more affordable than some of those big cities. Like Northern Ireland, we're amongst the lowest cost of living in the UK. So quality of life really high. You know, you could be, like I said, surfing or hiking a mountain before class, and then popping over to Liverpool for a concert in the evening or something like that. I wanted to pop entry requirements on there just so you can see some of the things that we do look for, and I imagine most of my colleagues are looking for similar criteria. We have country managers for each location at our institutions, so you'll have somebody that is very familiar with the U.S. school system, and they'll know what they're looking for in you as an applicant. So for most of us, it's going to be that GPA on the transcript. A lot of us will require standardized tests. It's sadly a necessary evil to a certain extent, although a lot of us are looking at how we can change that. I think most folks wish they were test optional, but standardized testing is just a way that we can kind of ensure that you are prepared to step into a course of study at a similar level to what British students are stepping into. So do require that, but I would say for most of us, it doesn't have the most weight of the things. It's probably that GPA and that transcript more than anything else. We do also need to see upper level education evidence. So that's usually AP exams or SAT 2 subject tests, or community college classes. And that's, again, because we're only a 3-year program, we need to show that you have that kind of base, strong knowledge in the subject you want to study. Because, you know, the U.S. system, like, we study biology in 10th grade. If you want to study biology for your full degree, we need to show that you've done something since 10th grade to advance yourself in that field. And then you can prove that you have really strong base knowledge in that area. The next one. So I won't go through all this, but I think I kind of covered this in the beginning, really. First of all, I took this picture myself about 2 weeks ago when I was swimming in that lake wearing a wetsuit because it was real cold. But this is where I live, just a really beautiful spot. And I think the next photo as well when we wrap up. I think Daphne took that one in Wales. So, oh yeah, there it is. Different valley, same national park. So just a comparison of overview, you've heard this a lot. We're shorter degrees, 3 years for bachelor's, 1 year for master's, 3 years for PhD. So in 7 years, I mean, this is, you don't have to plan for a PhD. In 7 years, you could have a PhD. In the US, that would take 11 to 14 generally. So time, yes, very, very key to have it be a little bit more focused. But time is also more affordable because it's shorter. You don't have to pay tuition for those years, obviously. So tuition starts at about $14,000 in Wales, and it goes up to about $25,000, depending on the campus and depending on the course you're going to study. But again, at most, you're looking at $25,000, and that's for like basically an Ivy League almost institution. So 3 years, $75,000. That's about as much as 1 year at some U.S. institutions. Like I said, when I was looking at programs, the only 2 schools I looked at in the U.S. for my master's and PhD, one was $48,000 a year, and one was $52,000 a year. The school I ended up at was Macquarie University in North Wales. It was $11,000 a year, and then after scholarships, I was paying $6,000 a year. For that, I filled out the FAFSA. I got U.S. federal loans. Yes, I was in debt at the end of this, but I was in debt about $50,000 at the end of a PhD. I was okay with that. You know, that is manageable. It sounds like a lot of money, but in terms of loans, it's fairly straightforward to pay back. The experience that I got, the opportunities that I had to work on actual film sets and get this like industry experience while I was studying and live in Narnia, it's pretty great. And then just, you know, some of the other same things that my colleagues have said. It's world-class institutions, really warm welcome. I really love the Welsh culture. We have our own language, really wonderful traditions, excellent food. The UK tends to have a bad reputation for food, but it has changed in the last 2 decades. So lovely place to come and explore. Plus, if you need something different, you can pop to Northern Italy for the weekend and go get some excellent food at different locales, which is just a lovely option. I think that's the main gist that I would say there. The only other thing about Wales is that all 8 institutions have streamlined their entry criteria in the last 2 years. So everyone's asking for the same stuff. They'll be asking for different numbers, but they're all asking for the same stuff. So it's just helpful to know that clarity. You're going to know where you stand. The other thing I would say along with these guys, just be aware that each of these institutions has this U.S. champion, and they're not the admissions person who's looking for a reason to exclude you. They're the person that is looking to help your application be as strong as possible to get you in the door. Their job is to make sure that you have everything you need, you understand, you know, how the application goes together, what the personal statement looks like. They're on your side, so utilize them. If you really do want to apply to one of these programs, have a chat with them, show them your transcript, tell me where you want to study. Is this a good option? Get them on your side. So I'd definitely encourage you to do that. This is my last bit. The other thing I would just say is my public service announcement for you. This is a lot of information. You just took in a lot of info, so well done. But what you really need to think about when you're thinking about this, location and program. If you like the location and you like the program, apply. Most of these campuses are going to be free to apply to or very, very affordable. There's not the $100 per application like there is in the US. And you'll usually know within a couple of weeks, if not just a couple of days, if you've been accepted. We have rolling admissions and it's pretty quick of a turnaround. So it gives you that option. You'll know where you stand. And then once you're accepted, we'll help you with everything else. We'll walk you through the visa process, the housing, you know, all that. So just try to focus on what you want to study and where you want to do it. And if you like those things, apply. Okay, that's me done. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Maggie and everyone. I did take this photo, thank you very much, because Maggie took me to this amazing place. So as she just said, you guys just heard a ton of information. And so if you're a little bit overwhelmed, that's okay. This is being recorded and you can go back and watch it. And I want to just, like, before we take questions, just sort of summarize. I hope that all of you were able to take away from this that all of these countries, and this is just a slice of the countries that are going to be represented throughout our month of workshops, they want you. Right? They want our students. They are trying to make this easy and transparent and welcoming and a very personal process. If you want to keep in touch with the reps, you can do that easily. I can help put you in touch with people. And again, like, they'll help you. You know, the American process, a lot of students feel like the odds are stacked against you, right? It's not very transparent a lot of the time. And it feels, you know, depending on where you're applying, it can feel like an uphill battle. And I hope that you're able to take away from this presentation that when you apply internationally, it is so much less stressful and very individualized and warm and personal. We can absolutely make that happen for you guys. All right, so we'll open it up to questions. I'm going to turn off the slides so we can kind of see each other better. All right, we're back. So go ahead and pop your questions into the Q&A, guys, if anybody has questions. Anybody? This is a great opportunity. Remember, this is the source, and we've got all these different countries represented. So please, if you are hesitating on a question, there's probably other people that are wondering the same thing, so don't be shy. I have a question. Yes. Okay. Which countries have their own applications versus Common App? Does anybody want to take that?
Everybody has offerings of Common App, so I'll throw that out there. So most countries will have a few of the universities sign up for Common App, so it's always worth checking that. Europe has UCAS, which is like the Common App, but it's for Europe. There's my answers for ours.
So in Ireland, we're a little bit different. We're not on the UCAS system, so it'd just be the UK schools. So Northern Ireland, Peter is on it, but down south isn't. Maggie, anyone in Scotland and the UK would be on it, but for Ireland, you'd either apply directly to the universities or a number of us are on the Common App. So you've got both options there.
And in Canada, you have both options depending on the school. So some universities are on the Common Application. Some universities, you do have to apply directly to the university, or they might offer both options. And then in some provinces, like in Ontario, we have what's like a Common Application, but just for the universities in Ontario. So you could apply to all 22 universities in Ontario if you want, just on one application. So it really depends, again, on the school you're applying to.
In Australia, very few universities are on the Common App, so you will apply direct to the university there.
Okay. Oh, good. We're getting some more questions rolling in. Okay, our second question. Is there a specific number of honors or AP classes you have to take to apply to UK schools? So I will ask Peter to grab that one.
Yeah, no problem. There will be a specific number. Each university will tell you exactly what you need. And as Maggie said, you know, there are people like me, there are people like Maggie, there are university reps as well, who will tell you if you reach out to the teams. If you find a university, if you find a place that looks good, just Google the name of the university and then USA, and it'll bring you to the right people, or bring you to the entry requirements, because we publish them on our website. Typically, and this is just an average, you're looking at 2 or 3 APs, for example, and then that might be in addition to your high school diploma, it might be in addition to an SAT, but everyone will tell you exactly what you need. And if you're not sure, just ask.
Great, thank you. Our next question is, does every college or university in the USA allow us to spend a semester or a full year international?
I'll take that one. With the study abroad programs within the US, most programs will allow you to do a semester or a year. I say that it's very individualized by not only the school that you're attending, but also your course of study. And wherever you end up, I would have conversations, because likely your term where you would study abroad would either be a sophomore or a junior year. If you already know that you're doing a medical track or an engineering track, it's generally very difficult to study abroad for longer than a semester. And so a lot of those students typically will study over a summer session or a Maymester. And so I would just work very, very closely with your academic advisors so that when you do have a study abroad experience, it's going to best fit your education plans.
Great. Okay, next question. In the UK, what are the opportunities for dual degrees / double majoring? Is it a common thing? Is it regularly offered? Maggie or Peter?
I can take that if you'd like. Yes, it is offered. It's not called double majoring. It's generally called joint honors. So it basically means that you're taking 60% of one subject and 40% of another, or 50-50. The difference is that they're pre-approved combinations. So it's not like you can make up your own and say, I'm going to study music and ocean sciences. It's going to be somehow related. So you'll be doing history and film, or French with English, or computer science and oceanography. So there will be a pre-approved combination of what you can do together. If that isn't thrilling to you, you have two totally different interests. I always use the example of my friend Steve. He did his bachelor's in music. He was a concert grade pianist. So he did 3 years in music, and specifically performance. And then he did a 1-year MBA in business. And now he runs the choirs at Liverpool Cathedral. So there are ways to kind of combine these interests if you want to include that 1-year master's.
Great, thank you. I will say, of everything that I've learned over the past couple of years about UK schools, there are a very imaginative combination of ways that you can do this. So just ask lots of questions, and a lot of times you can make it happen, which is pretty cool. Okay, we're coming up on an hour, so we've got 3 more questions for the moment. What are some of the things that students like to do on the weekends at your university? How about, can we start with Canada?
Of course. Yeah. So at my university specifically, I'll start there, but I'll talk about a little bit in Canada in general. Some things students like to do on the weekends. We have a lot of nature in the Greater Toronto area, including lakefront. So either going for a walk downtown in the general city, maybe catching a concert or a baseball or a basketball game. But also we have lots of hiking trails. We also have fantastic restaurants and cafes. So I have to say there's a lot of eating that takes place in Toronto. But in Canada, generally speaking, it's different in every city, but I think what you'll find is that there's lots of activities, especially because we're such a diverse country. There's always something to get involved in, and we're also very safe. So there's lots of opportunities pretty well everywhere across the country that you can get involved in on your weekend time.
Great. Anybody else want to pop in?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Northern Ireland's a pretty outdoorsy place, so most of our students will head out and about at the weekend, either up the mountains or along the coast. At this time of year, it's going to be a little bit wet and wild. The weather is not tropical, but it's usually a good day up the mountain. Maybe a little swim, wetsuit definitely required. Good suggestion by Maggie. And then usually sitting by the fire in the pub in the evening is a pretty good way to round off a day.
Super.
And then coming down south, we'd have something quite similar to Peter. Wouldn't be tropical at all. I think we've had 4 seasons today so far, and I'm just waiting for the wind to pick up outside. But a lot of students do a lot of outdoor stuff. We have a lot of ancestral history, you know, castles and different things like that they'll go and visit. Some of them will hit the beaches and go surfing or kayaking, and then some of them will actually pop up north, up to Northern Ireland and check out some stuff down there, as some of the students come down south and check out Cove, where the Titanic set sail, and all those different bits and bobs. So it is very much outdoors, getting to see things and doing a lot of the tourist stuff. And hopefully when COVID's over, then they'll do their Ryanair flights for €20 return from Paris or to Rome over to Rhine or different places like that. So there'll be tours at the weekend over to Paris or wherever they want.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to move on to the last 2 questions so we can wrap up. Do the universities look at unweighted or weighted GPA? I think this is going to be all over the place and very different.
Generally both for us. It would depend on the subject if we would look at weighted, but both.
Yeah, I would say you guys will get more information about requirements if you come to the country-specific workshops, because it is so broad that in an overview workshop like this, it's a bit hard to get a sense. The systems are very different from each other, and some countries are going to look at American GPA and some will not at all because they're more testing based. So come to the individual sessions and you will learn a whole lot. All right, our last question. Let's see, is about testing. It's been very difficult to schedule standardized testing recently, but if I wanted to apply to an engineering major, would you generally prefer just the regular SAT score or an SAT subject score, for example, SAT Math 2?
I can speak generally for the UK, I guess. For something specific, and particularly for STEM majors, the chances are you will be asked to prove your knowledge in particular disciplines, be it math, chemistry, physics, something like that, which we will take, either APs or SATs. Some universities will take the likes of honours classes, for example, just because we know there's been a lot of difficulty with testing recently, so this year there will be more leeway applied than ever. But generally, the more specific and scientific the major, the greater chance you're going to need specific testing to prove your academic merit.
Anyone want to add? Okay, all right, we'll wrap up then. And I can tell you guys that the schools are so flexible this year. Like this is the year, you know, if you're just like a little bit off of requirements, like this is the year to try to make your case, you know, and strengthen your application in other ways. The universities abroad tend to be very flexible with testing, where it might be like what Peter said, SAT or AP or like some combination. And they really are willing to work with you, you know, as much as they are able. They're going to have flexibility. So try, you know, don't give up on it on the face of it. If you don't think you have the numbers, ask, talk to them, and they will help you hopefully find a way. Okay. So we'll wrap up for today, for this afternoon. Thank you all so much to students and to our wonderful admission reps. This has been amazing. I've already learned a lot as well. Every time I attend one of these things, I'm always learning little tidbits. And for students, I cannot tell you how much an international experience will change you. I was a French major and I got to study abroad in Paris for a year, very long time ago that we won't talk about. But it's absolutely life-changing. And I know so many adults that like the one regret they have about college is that they didn't study abroad. And it is the one time in your life when generally you don't have to worry about paying rent and having a job and all the like adult responsibilities. Take advantage. It will blow your mind. So thank you all so much for being with us today. And feel free to reach out with any questions. and I can put you in touch with any of these reps, and sign yourselves up for workshops. We've got UCAS tomorrow morning. We have another UK workshop on Thursday. We've got study in Canada, study in Australia, study in Asia, study in Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, England. It's awesome. So we hope to see you throughout the month. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.